Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is Beyond the Forecast.
Good morning. Welcome back to this week's episode of Beyond the Forecast. We're really excited for this week's episode because we have a professor from the University of Oklahoma who's on the cutting edge of AI and how AI is impacting forecasting and model data and how it could impact you at home. So good morning, Dr. McGovern. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
So you are the director of the National Science Foundation, and I want to get your title right. It's a good one, of the AI Institute for Research on Trustworthy AI. Can you just tell folks at home a little bit about your background, why weather, and why AI?
Excellent question. So my background is actually that I trained in computer science and AI. I like to tell people I was doing AI before AI was cool. Because most people think that AI only came around in the last few years with ChatGPT, but AI has actually been around for a very long time. But why weather? I could see that AI had a lot of promise, and I wanted to see that AI could do something to actually make a difference to the world. And weather is a great way to save lives and make a real difference to the world. And it's something that affects all of us every day.
When it comes to AI, nowadays, people, when they think of AI, they see AI mainly on social media. It's these videos, it's these fake people. Can you talk a little bit about the AI specifically that you look at? It's not people that are going to come on and tell you weather on a TV screen.
No, although I suppose you could make that, but that's certainly not what we're working on. We're working on trying to improve the weather forecasts themselves. So the things that you look at every day, you look at models every morning to look at all the different models to decide what the weather is going to do today, tomorrow, for the next 10 days. And what we're doing is developing AI methods that will give you better predictions of what the weather will be. And it's across all different sorts of scales. So we're looking for example, when's the next cold front going to come? That will be fabulous. We're all a little bit warm. But also, can we improve the prediction in the very short term? Something like tornadoes. The average warning of tornadoes is about 15 minutes. And the average warning for hailstorms is about 15 minutes. Could we get you up to 30? That's not enough time to, do large numbers of things. But with 30 minutes, you could do a better job of cleaning out your garage and getting your cars inside. Or if you're something like an airline, you could do a better job of getting more planes out of the way or not landing them, all sorts of ways in which you could protect property.
When it comes to the way that models work now, it's something that on TV we talk about, and we'll just say, hey, this is one particular model data set, and then it's our job to break down what we think as a human, what the forecast is going to be. But we don't go into a lot of detail about what goes into those models. And I think this is a great platform. This is why we love Beyond the Forecast. We get to talk about what goes into the computer model that we look at as meteorologists. So AI aside, what do those models do before you introduce AI to them? Like what was happening before AI?
Excellent question. So the models are reading in as much data as is possibly available to them. So for the viewers, there's, they may know about the Oklahoma Mesonet because I think that you guys show it on the air sometimes, but there's not a Mesonet in every state, but there are observation stations at all the airports. So there's observations that you're reading in from there. They have these balloon soundings that go up twice a day across the United States. It's probably more like once a state or once every couple states. You've got information from the airplanes, you've got information from the satellites. All of that information is being fed into the models in what they call it data assimilation. So it's a way of taking all that information, trying to make a consistent version of information across the world so that you can then feed that into your models.
So that's what we look at every day. We have as forecasters. We are looking at that. It takes in this pretty big grid. It's actually not a very small grid. It needs to get a lot better, but that's what we have to look at now. And that's great technology. Now that we have satellites, when satellites came into play and the weather data we were able to gather from satellites was so game changing. Do you think adding AI now and what it's bringing to model forecasting, is this a game changer equivalent to satellites or much greater?
Yes. And you asked me about the data that goes in before the forecast. AI is getting used two different ways, right? And so there could be a game changer in two ways. AI is actually now being used to do that data assimilation picture. And then AI is also being used to do the forecast. And I think both of those could be a game changer. And I could explain why. On the data assimilation end, one of the things that we didn't talk about is that data assimilation is very, very computationally expensive. It takes a very long time to read in all that data. Sorry, morning allergies. And so that, all that data that's coming in from everywhere, it might take an hour to get all turned into a consistent picture. And so it takes a while to then give you that forecast. And whereas AI, once it's been trained, could read that data in and give you a consistent picture very, very quickly, which could give you a faster forecast. Can I get a
You're
drink?
totally fine. If you need to get a drink, you do that.
You cut for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay, we want to hear what you have to say. Basically, when it comes down to what the models are doing and the data that they're taking in, like she was mentioning, when it comes to the big computers or supercomputers that it takes to process all of that data, that takes time. That's very expensive. Where is that going through? This new way of doing computations is going to change the way from here on out that we forecast. So welcome back. The allergies are awful right now.
They are. And I hadn't taken my morning allergy medicine yet. So
you got it. You got it. Okay. So when it comes to introducing AI, what exactly are you looking at when it comes to modeling, and how is this going to affect those models that have been running for decades? How is this changing them?
That was the other half of the question that I started coughing in the middle of. So that's a great question. I talked about that the AI can read the data in and give you an assimilated picture that's consistent, but now we need to go to the models. So the big thing that you're hearing about in the AI on the models right now is basically they're reading in 40, 50 years of data. So there's a product out there that I know you know about, but the readers probably don't know about. It's called ERA5, and it is produced by the European Center, and they make a consistent reanalysis of what the weather looked like in every one of those grid squares that you're talking about. So we make grid squares across the whole world. And we really make 3D grid squares. If you think of like Minecraft blocks, and you break the whole world into Minecraft blocks, and it gives you a consistent picture of what the temperature, the wind, the pressure, everything was inside of there. And the AI models are training on that data. And because they have that data going back into the 80s, actually it goes all the way into the 60s, the AI models are training over time. Like, I saw the weather yesterday. Now what's it look like the next day? I saw that weather. Now what's it look like the next day? And if you train on that for 50 or 60 years of data, you're getting a nice consistent view of what the weather, how the weather changes over time. And the AI models are able to do a really good job of capturing what's happening so that you could then give it a new picture and give it a new forecast. Are they perfect? No, they're not. They don't know the laws of physics, but they're learning a lot of the laws of physics implicitly by being told basically 50 to 60 years of data.
When it comes to the way that we forecast now, the way these models give us these different outputs, now with AI, we're already seeing that some of these models that are running are giving us really good outcomes. How do you think we're performing right now with, large scale hurricanes, cold fronts, big pattern changes? And where do you think we go with this in the next, let's just say 5 years? I mean, is this going to be a completely outdated podcast where you're going to be like, what, you were just then introducing AI?
I don't think so. I don't think we'll be completely outdated because there's a lot of problems to solve. But where are we going? We're doing really well at those large scale phenomena like you talked about. So the temperature changes, the hurricanes, a lot of people ask me, why can you do a hurricane better than you can do a tornado? There's a really huge difference in scale. The hurricane is enormous. And so on these models that are breaking the world into grids, the grids are not really big enough to see the tornadoes, but they're big enough to see a hurricane because this thing is huge. And so we're doing really well at that. And the AI models are showing some very strong promise at predicting whether or not a hurricane is going to form a couple days in advance of what the more traditional models have been doing. And the more traditional models, by the way, work on giant supercomputers, and they work basically on simulating the laws of physics. And so they're very computationally intensive. They take a very long time to run. Where we're going in the next 5 years, there are people who are working on developing smaller scale models to try to do an improved version of tornado prediction. So there's a great product that NOAA has developed called the Warn on Forecast product that tries to give you a forecast every 15 minutes and trying to get the lead time out on tornadoes and hail on the really severe days, something that we Oklahomans care about. They're trying to get the lead time out to close to an hour, but they're still using traditional methods. And they are in the process of developing an AI-based method that's very similar to what I talked about in training it on all the tornadoes and the information you have, although not for 50 years because we don't have that level of data. But can we use those AI methods to get you a quick answer so that like every 2 or 3 minutes, we can get you an updated forecast of what the probability of the tornado is and where it might go? And I think that's where we're going in the future, is being able to forecast these smaller scale events really well and with more lead time.
So in order to do that, you wouldn't necessarily need more sensors, or would more sensors just absolutely boost the product?
That's an excellent question. I think more sensors will make everybody happy, but I don't think we necessarily need them. I do think there's a limit to what we can do with the sensors that we have right now. I think that that's what we're seeing currently. Our tornado warnings have sort of plateaued, and it's just because we just don't have any more data out there, right? And we're doing the best we can with the data that we have. So more sensors will be great. And that's something that NOAA is working on right now, is developing next state-of-the-art radars. For example, the current radars that you use, well, not the special one that's, owned by the news, but the ones that are owned by NOAA, they've been in place since the 80s and 90s, and they're older technology, and they take a very long time to scan around a whole storm because they just spin in a circle. It takes about 5 minutes to go all the way up in the atmosphere. The new ones can do things in 30 seconds. So you'll be able to get a more complete picture of the atmosphere and of the storms very quickly, and that will be able to feed into the models and give you better answers.
When it comes to these computations that you keep talking about and calculating these massive equations, which supercomputing and all of that technology help to get us to where we are now, but I'm not completely clear on where these AI computations are done. Can you explain to me and to the viewer, instead of these big supercomputers that physically live somewhere that are running these computations, where does the AI computer live? Where is that physically?
That's an excellent question. So the AI models themselves, I think people tend to miss this. Training the model still requires one of those supercomputers. So physically somewhere, a supercomputer. But when you go to run it forward, it's a trained model. It is just math, and math in a way that it's just multiplication, essentially. It's fancy multiplication. And so it means it could happen on your laptop. It could happen on your computer in the station. You basically need what we call graphics cards. It's a graphical processing unit. It's what your viewers may have to play video games. Because in order to play a video game, you need to do a lot of fancy math to draw the graphics on the screen. That exact same card can do the fancy math for doing your weather forecasting, which means that to do your weather forecast, you could do it anywhere.
That's what's so incredible about this. That's also what introduces, I think, the scary factor to a lot of people, is that seems like it can be manipulated so easily. And you are really big on ethical use of AI. Can you talk a little bit about the ethical side of things? Because essentially, this can be done in so many different places in so many different ways. How do we keep this contained where the information that's coming in and going out isn't alarming people, doing more harm than good, and is truly geared towards saving lives?
That's a really important question, because there isn't anything stopping nefarious actors from putting out bad forecasts. But I would say that might be true now. You probably know there are some personalities online who try to put out oh my gosh, there's about to be a tornado, and they're just faking things out.
Yes, the world's coming to an end. Watch me only.
Right. So that kind of nefarious actor isn't going to be solved by anything we can do with AI. It's just going to give them more tools, unfortunately. But what I'd say is we are trying to study ways to make sure that the AI, the forecasts that we do give you, are trustworthy, so that you can understand that they aren't producing something with a bad actor inside them. And so one of the things we need to do is be robust to bad data that's coming in. Just like I think your viewers have probably heard about, like, your car can recognize the stop signs or the speed limit signs, and people could put pieces of tape over it and make it look different. We're working on similar things for weather data, so that you can't have a bad sensor somewhere just feed into your model and give you something that's completely crazy. Like, oh, it's going to be, 95 tomorrow, when really it's going to be 80 or 70 or something like that. Right. Or mess where the tornado forecast is going to go. So we've been working on trying to develop ways to stay robust no matter how the data is that's coming in. And I don't know if that helps to answer your question, but that's
absolutely. When it comes to looking at this data and the different models that are out there, where are we currently with the number of models that have either AI in them or that are complete AI models that are going into forecasting weather across the country, across the globe?
The operational one, I know that you mentioned when we tried to do this podcast and then the internet broke.
Right.
The operational one that I know about is the one that's put out by the European Center. It's called AIFS. So it's the AI forecasting system. And that is an operational use. And so that's a global forecasting system. A lot of the other ones that are being developed by NOAA are in testing. So you can see them. The one that I was talking about, the AI warn and forecast system, is available in testing. It's in their test beds. There are smaller scale AI models that are being developed for a bunch of different tasks. NOAA has a couple of them that are operational. They're testing a hurricane forecasting model in conjunction with Google right now. The things that, we've been testing, I mean, we personally at OU, which I think the viewers should be proud of, have put a few models into production that I know about, like they personally came out of our group. We have one that is an AI model that identifies fronts. And it sounds like, oh, why are you identifying fronts? You're not forecasting the fronts, but that's actually a pretty intensive task, and it matters for the weather, right? So if we can give you a quick guess at here's the cold front, here's the warm front, here's the stationary front, here's the dry line. We all hear about dry lines on the news. That's what's going to trigger a lot of our weather. If I can tell you that very quickly and very accurately, and then we can run that through the forecast, we can give you where all those are going to be in the future. And that affects all of our weather. And that's a product that's operational, that's running inside NOAA now, that we developed here at OU. There's other ones. Another faculty member at OU who's part of our NSFAI Institute, although he did this before he came to OU, developed a product that works in conjunction with the Storm Prediction Center that's AI-based, that tells you the chances of the tornadoes and the hail and all those severe days out to 8 days using AI. And so those models do exist right now. And I think that that's really exciting. We're just going to get more and more of them.
I hadn't heard of several of those. When it comes to the future, we were talking about making the forecasts smaller, more fine-tuned, and you were talking about Oklahoma and tornadoes specifically.
Yes.
Do you think, how close do you think, if you had to make a guess, and we're talking about predicting the future here with AI, this is what I do every day, you predict the future every day. What do you think we get down to? Will we get to where we can predict within counties where tornadoes are the most likely? Will we be, how small do you think that scale is going to get based on what you're seeing come out of this?
That's a really interesting question. I think the first thing we can get out of it is to extend the warning time. So right now the warning time averages about 15 minutes. Get it out to 30 minutes seems like a reasonable thing. A lot of people talk about an hour. I'm not sure we have the data to get it out to an hour yet, although it would be great. There are two different questions about tornadoes that could be asked in there. So the warning time is sort of once the storms are starting to happen, the ingredients are all in place. We talk about the tornado watches and the tornado warnings, and I know a lot of the viewers think that that's a confusing thing. I like the analogy that it's a cupcake watch. You have all the ingredients together, right? The cupcake warning is I have mixed it all up and I put it in the oven. So I'm talking about that scale right now, where I think we can increase the warning scale. The tornadoes are baked and they are ready to come. But the other side of the question is, could we narrow down that information a couple days in advance? Instead of saying it's very likely over most of Oklahoma that we're going to have tornadoes, but all of our viewers know we're not going to see tornadoes everywhere, right? Could we get that narrowed down so we could say something more like, in 2 days, we're likely to see tornadoes in Oklahoma City? That will be really nice. I think we're working on that. That's going to be a little bit harder to do more quickly. I think extending the warning time is going to happen more quickly than the other, just because the information isn't as necessarily as available, and the processes, the scale at which we need to resolve the processes to say that there's going to be a tornado in Oklahoma City versus just in Oklahoma is harder to say at this range. We don't have the sensors out there. There's so much uncertainty that contributes to that, and it's over such a wide range to be able to give you that answer and to narrow that down. I think that one's going to be a few more years.
A few more years. I mean, we can wait. It's so amazing to hear that that's what's going on behind the scenes. And that's the goal, the end goal. And the end goal is always just to save lives. It's to get the warning out there, to get as precise as we can with the forecast, so people really listen and can trust that forecast and make decisions based on that. Why is that a passion of yours? Because you just keep going into the warning time and the warning decision. How did you become so involved and passionate about that?
I want to be able to save lives and make a difference. And I'd really like, a goal of mine is that the AI would be able to create a personalized forecast for you, so that there's something that meets your risk needs, right? Some people might be more willing to take the risk of whatever those storms are versus people who are very, they're owning a bigger company. They have livestock. They need to be able to have a better warning. And to me, you ask where the passion came from. I just want to be able to make a difference to the world, and weather is one way in which we can make a very strong difference to the world, because everybody experiences. You cannot hide from the weather. If you think you can hide from the weather, then you haven't met my roof.
Yes, you probably haven't lived very long in Oklahoma, because my goodness, it doesn't discriminate. That's for sure.
No, one of the proof in 20 years of living in Oklahoma.
Yeah. You and a lot of people. When it comes to AI, I think a lot of people are hesitant. You hear AI and it's almost like a dirty word. You know what I mean? Like, hold on, why? And not to everybody, but it's kind of scary. It's the new thing. And a lot of people wonder, is that going to take over for humans? Because we see that happening in different job markets in different places. The way that you are using it and you are seeing it, how long do you think you need humans to be interacting with this and with these models and to be looking at them?
I don't foresee taking over the human's job anytime soon. I see us as providing more tools to the humans, because one thing that humans are really good at is the decision making and the information fusion, like looking at the different models and saying, well, this is what really matters. AI is not. AI is good at looking at lots of information and giving you an answer, but it's also really good at being confident when it doesn't actually know a thing. And so I don't think that the AI is going to take over for the humans anytime soon. But I think it's going to provide a trustworthy tool in our toolbox. And I think that's important. I'm not out there to replace the forecasters. I'm out there to give you a better toolkit that you can then you could use to make better decisions and to get on the air and tell people exactly what's going to happen.
If you could take 5, 10 years, whatever you want to do with a timeline, but if you could right now have the things that you're working on, what would that be with broad scale, not even tornadoes, but just in weather forecasting in general, with some of the hiccups, some of the just the time it takes for data quality? What is it that you would just immediately implement and AI would do? Where would we be at?
I love that question because I have an answer. What I want is that personalized forecast, and I want it across everybody, not just Oklahomans. I want it to be across all scale of risks, and I want it to be available in our pocket. So I can say, well, one person's trying to plan their wedding in a week, another person's trying to plan, just what they're doing today, another person's trying to plan whether or not their workers can go out and do things in the field today. All of those things. It's all very different levels of risks, and I want to be able to say, in my pocket, what's the risk of what's going to happen today? What do I need to do to adjust my plans? Maybe I have a child who has special needs and I need to care for that. Like, well, what's the risk of that? Do I need to potentially consider an evacuation because there's a hurricane that might come my way, but I'm not sure? All of that. I want there to be a personalized forecast that can help you save your lives and property, especially as the weather is changing and we're trying to adapt to this new world where things are happening that we're not necessarily seeing in our recent history.
That would be so powerful. What a world that would be. I think that you are the person. I think you're the right person for the job. When it comes to things you're working on personally right now, and that OU is working on personally right here that we may not know about, what are some of the things that are going to be coming out of OU or that's going on at OU right now?
So out of my lab, we're working on intense precipitation forecasting. So trying to get you a better forecast of those really intense precipitation events when it rains, an inch in half an hour or an inch in 15 minutes. We want to be able to get a better forecast of that. Looking at the other side of it, looking at trying to predict drought. So then we're trying to do that worldwide, not just here in the United States. Improving, trying to create a simulated radar for tornadoes so that we can look at, once the storms have existed, could we tell you using AI and what the next 30 minutes of the radar will look like? And lightning prediction. Those are just some samples of what's going on in my lab right now.
Right here in Oklahoma. And those calculations, computations are all being done. Are a lot of students involved in that?
Yes, it's graduate students and postdocs.
What would you say to anyone who's watching? We have so many people who are obsessed with weather in Oklahoma who are thinking, this is a field I want to be a part of. This is cutting edge. This is the future. What would you say to them?
I'd be glad to have more people involved in it. Go to school, get your degree. And it doesn't even have to be in meteorology. It could be in computer science. It could be in AI, something that you've got a passion for that's going to help people. And then I think a lot of people, when they see the meteorology, they see the people on TV, they don't realize how much math is behind it.
Right.
So if you're looking at this and you're a viewer who's getting ready to make your college choices, take your math classes seriously. And then you can get into the meteorology, you can get into the science, because that's really important to be able to join those two together to do the interdisciplinary work and to put the passion together to try to make some answers that'll make it better for people.
If I'm just saying this from personal experience, my background wasn't at all to go into TV. It was very much the computer science side of it. And that's what I loved so much. I loved all the coding. I thought I wanted to go into modeling, but this did not exist that I was aware of at the time in this way. It's such a passion of mine. It's so interesting to me. I'm very blessed and thankful that I took the road that I did, and I am where I am. But this is something we have to keep up with, because this is the future, and this is the future of what, David, myself, the rest of the weather team, when we look at data and we forecast and we present that information to you at home, it's coming from this side of things. And
Yes.
So we'll keep you updated, of course, how that's changing over time. And we'd love to talk to you, as you find new things out, Dr. McGovern. Is there anything else you would like to add for our audience?
No, I think it's just be excited about all the things that are happening in Oklahoma and keep supporting it.
Yeah, absolutely. We will. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your morning. And thank you to all the viewers at home. We hope you will join us next week on our next episode of Beyond the Forecast.